Welcome back. Today I'm sharing how to make this Bob Ross inspired fall foliage cake. So I'm so excited to share this cake with you. Fall is finally here and this is such a fun technique and it's so much more achievable than a lot of people think. So to start off with the build of the cake, I'm making this with some pumpkin cake layers, and this is a recipe that I'm trying from Life, Love, and Sugar. I have tried so many different pumpkin cake recipes and this one is by far the best. It's light, it's fluffy, and it is so delicious. I'm frosting it with my classic American buttercream, and it would be really fun to pair this with a cream cheese frosting, but just for the painting and to make sure that the frosting really crusts, which sounds gross but is so important when you're doing this kind of look, I just stuck with my classic buttercream. So I applied a thin crumb coat all the way around the cake, and once I had smoothed that using my bench scraper, I chilled the cake in the freezer for about 5 minutes until it was firm to the touch. Next, I added on a second generous layer of frosting to make sure that we had a really clean blank slate to start with. It's really like a blank canvas. I joke around about that sometimes, but in this case, since we are technically painting with buttercream, it really is. So I don't share my full smoothing process in these tutorials, but I do have a really in-depth one showing exactly how I get smooth sides on my cake, and if you're interested in that, you can check it out on my Baking Basics playlist. I let the cake chill for about 2 hours in my fridge until it was nice and firm and it had crusted. And then I went to town with these, I don't really know what to call these tools. I bought them on Amazon. I'll include the link below. The description called them palette knives, and they came in a pack of a variety of sizes. So I grabbed one of the larger ones and I went to town with some gray buttercream. So my first layer of buttercream paint, I wanted to create the mountains that would be in the background of my cake portrait. So I started kind of at the top of the mountain and worked the frosting down to create lines for the sides. So you don't have to work the frosting all the way to the base of the cake because you're going to be adding a bunch of trees all the way around this. So you really just want to get kind of a good background. So this doesn't have to be perfect. I got much more comfortable with this as I went, but I've never tried a technique like this before, so it was really a learning process with each little mountain. And I definitely felt much more comfortable and I was much faster at it by my last mountain. Once I had all of my mountains in place, I wanted to give them a little bit more dimension, so I started adding a little bit of white buttercream to the tops of some of them to look kind of like snow. I wasn't quite sure what kind of pattern I wanted these to be in, so at first I made kind of some lines following the angle of the mountain, and in the end I ended up mostly just blending it together. I didn't want the snow to really stand out. I really did just want it to be kind of there in the background, for lack of a better word. Next, I added a bit of brownish gray frosting to the sides of the mountain to also give it more depth. And then it was time for the fun part. I added some green buttercream around the base of the cake to kind of be like the grass or the bushes, and then I got to work on our trees. So I started off making some Douglas fir-inspired trees, which I think were the easiest and that I was the least intimidated by. And then I started adding on some of those beautiful fall colors. So I had some kind of burgundy frosting, some orange frosting, some yellow frosting. And as I was doing this, I was really just blending the colors together and trying to give the cake a lot of dimension. I also used this mini fork to create some lines that really did make it look like a fir tree, which worked wonderfully. If you don't have a mini fork, you could also use a small knife or a toothpick to make some score marks. So I continued working my way around the cake using different sized palette knives and swirling my colors together, and I'm also making my trunks using both brown buttercream and some white buttercream, just because I think some birch trees do have a whitish bark and it's kind of fun to mix things up. So all of these colorful frostings are made using my buttercream as the base and are mixed with some gel food coloring. It's really important that you use gel food coloring because it helps give you such vibrant colors, and it also doesn't throw off the consistency of your frosting like liquid gel food coloring can. So that is it. Now it's time to cut into the cake and see those wonderful fluffy pumpkin cake layers. So as you guys can see, it's got a great shade from the pumpkin that's in the recipe. And it also tastes amazing. So here's a close-up of the bite just to show you how moist it really is. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to click the like button, and also let me know what fall cakes you'd like to see me make next.